All right. Here we go. See if everything's working. Looks like the connection's good. Everything's good. All right. Well, welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm your host, Ed Raby, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-atheist. So welcome to my channel. This is Rabyd Reflections for the week of November 9th, 2024. Of course, it's been an interesting week in American politics. In fact, the politicking is still going on. Of course, everybody's pointing fingers these days in the DNC, so we'll see what happens there. But today I just wanted to kind of look at the issue of what is the future for atheism. And I always ask this question after major decisions are made on presidents or in different places around the world, because I have noticed a disturbing trend, I suppose, in a rise in like Christian nationalism in the United States. The problem I've also had with that is, hey Shaka, but the problem I've also had with that is that there's also different things that go on that seem to indicate that the country is becoming more secular. So it's one of those things that I'm just trying to address here today. What is the future for atheism? And I want to thank Jova Shade. Thanks for the 5 gifted memberships. Appreciate those. For all of those who got those, you owe your thanks to Jova Shade. Thank you very much. So we have that. Thanks very much. But I wanted to ask the simple question, what is the future of atheism? I also want to talk about, actually, I want to open up a discussion for those of you who are regular features of this channel of what you would like to see more of. And so, on this channel and what I can do in response to some of the things that are probably going to happen. I think we're going to need more and more things. I don't see that that's going to be too much of an issue. I think there's a lot of overreaction to some of the things, but the issue, of course, is always whether or not Christianity will try to impose itself on others, which it has a tendency to do when it's in power. So you have that. And I also want to deal with some of the comments that have come up this week that I felt were good for a live stream event rather than something that's, where I just do it in the comment. So let's see. Let's see what we got. Yeah. Hi, Iron. Yeah, I think the thing is with atheism has 2 inherent problems that, from a public relations standpoint, that have lasted for quite some time. One of them is that, and like from the Red Scare, this has been on from the 50s. It's like, you atheists have no morality, which is not true. You may disagree with our moral foundations, but we do have them, and they are subjective. But I believe all morality is subjective. So, and then the other one usually is that we're lying to ourselves, and so we can't be trusted. There's definitely some prejudice that usually takes place against atheists. I get it all the time in the comments section. Well, probably not. Okay, I don't think that can be controlled by a government anyway. So yeah, I'll agree with you that. What I do think the future of atheism is going to continue to grow. This is what puzzles me, because based on all the polls, atheism is on the rise, secularism is on the rise, and yet you still had an election where there was a major religious push behind one candidate that was successful. And so the question becomes, is this just a bunch of the few remaining religious people left that just rose up and decided they're going to push back, or were there some other factors involved in Trump's election that had nothing to do with religion, which could also be the case. Yeah, I think this is one of the things I'm getting at. Okay, I think they're fighting back tooth and nail. But so I don't think that's the issue for me. Sign of the apocalypse, a theistic world order. That's scary. That's a scary thought. But so I'm not really sure that that's the issue necessarily, but I do get the funny and I do laugh at that a little bit. But I think the issue for me is, okay, there's a rise in secularism in the Western world, including the United States. Now, the United States still has their Bible Belt. They still have some very strong religious ties. Christianity has just dropped below 50% in the United States. So there's still a pretty strong power block there. So it's kind of a real tough one. So I'm beginning to be of the belief that there were other factors besides religion that led to Trump's victory. Okay, and I think I'm going to go over these in detail probably in a video this week. I'm actually reacting to a fellow atheist this week probably, and that'll be out Tuesday, I think. But I want to use him as a way of starting the discussion and getting that. I don't know. Is it his birthday? Okay. I don't know. See, whenever there's an election, there's always what I call an overreaction by the losers. And that's true. That was true last time. That's true this time. It's just a nature of human beings. Abortion is still legal in like 38 states of the union. Okay. And that hasn't changed. The only way they could change that is create a national ban. And Trump's position has always been that it would be the states that should decide that. So I think he might even veto it. Immigrants, yeah, that's going to be a problem. I don't know. I think if he's going to tariff, the problem with Trump's plan of tariffs is he's going to make everything more expensive. I don't think he realizes. I, as somebody who works in retail, know how much stuff is made outside of the country. Okay, I see it on labels all the time. So, and trade is not a bad thing. Okay, so I don't have that problem with trade, but it's a real problem with Trump. So. Okay. Drink more milk. Yeah, that's a good idea. So, let's see. Nobody likes Father's State. Okay. What am I accusing Christians of doing other than trying to push their morality on somebody else? Okay. To me, abortion is a moral question and it should be left to people to decide it, I guess, and not impose it on somebody else. Okay. My issue with Christians has always been they're trying to make me believe in spirit, whether I believe in actuality or not. Okay. If you impose a Christian moral standard on somebody who's an atheist, that's still an imposition. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I yell the other way too. Okay. When secularists tell Christians they, can't be Christians privately, I'm sorry, that's their business too, but I don't get after that. I'm still waiting for what you mean by wokeism. Give me a definition of wokeism. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I think progressives have a problem with finger pointing and name calling too. I'm not saying that at all, but you've had guys get up there and say Puerto Ricans is a pile of garbage. So it's like, And yeah, Biden did the same thing too with all Trump supporters. But what is wokeism? I'm still waiting for a good definition of wokeism. Okay, I'm still waiting for it. Everybody seems to kind of intuitively know what it is, but nobody ever gives me a definition. Okay. Mm, um, uh, yeah, and I'm not so sure that that's necessarily true. When you look at the vote, I mean, it's like 74 million to 70 million this election. Um, and the country, when you consider that a third of a country is usually children, so if you get rid of that, it's pretty close to 40%, I think. Um, so you only have to get so many voters. The big issue I have with voting in the United States is most of the time people, if they do bow out, it's just because of negligence. I didn't vote this time because I didn't like either candidate. So I didn't like the direction either one of them was taking me. In fact, part of my problem with Harris was, what is the direction? Okay, I didn't hear a vision of what the future could be. So it was more of, you don't want the other guy, and that only carries you so far. Okay, that may have got the Democrats to win the last election. You don't want Trump anymore, get rid of Trump. But then Biden comes in. What is he offering? Yeah. Well, prove to me God exists. I don't think God is that enough. I don't. I think that's an imaginary character. See, this is the problem when you're dealing with an atheist. You can sit there and talk to me about God all you want. It's like, I'm not really interested in what your imaginary character says. Okay, you got to prove he exists. Okay, um, so I mean, I don't buy that at all. Um, let's see. Yeah, you're just stating here, Rimmer, what a lot of people are saying here in the United States is she was just a bad candidate. I think the real problem was the Democrats didn't get to pick her. She was really kind of anointed by Biden as his successor, and I don't think even Democrats like that. Um, well, I'm going to, no, of course I don't. Okay. I don't like that at all. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I have other reasons as to why Biden lost, and I think a lot of progressives don't understand the real reasons of why he lost. Okay, I'm going to go into that in a video later this week when I'm reacting to another atheist. But this is my contention: is this is where most people live. Okay, they live in the area of gas prices and food prices, and part of that problem is, everybody blames the president for it, but it's like, there's a lot of extraneous factors when it comes to economics. Now, the progressives will argue, for instance, that the economy is good with inflation, but that's not where most people live. Most people live exactly where you're talking, Mr. Christian. You're talking about, they live in the area of, I'm paying more for gas, I'm paying more for rent, I'm paying more for this and that compared to 4 years ago. And I think when you look at the exit polls, it had far more to do with economics than religion. Okay. There was this, kind of a precursor to my video later this week. It's the issue of whether or not, you know, whether or not Harris had any kind of appeal to solving these problems. And I don't think she did. I think that was, no, I don't enjoy those things, but I also don't sit there and blame the president for all of it. Okay. There's a lot of economic factors that are far larger than the executive branch of the government. So you have to bring in all those. Uh, yeah, you're right. It is a very sneaky way to put a reductive tax on the poor because they're going to end up paying for the tariffs. the countries that you tariff don't end up paying the tariffs. It's the consumer, the people that buy the product. Uh, okay, so I don't see it. It is a sneaky way to get a tax on the poor. Yes, because the Republicans didn't use any scare tactics either. Yeah, okay. Both sides use scare tactics. Come on, man. But we're talking about the future of atheism anyway. So um, I'm going to say this. I think atheism is still in good shape because you can't force people to believe or not believe. Okay, that's going to be true. The issue is, am I going to be forced to do something that a Christian says is a good thing, but I don't think is? And I think that's the issue. Um, I honestly, I get 200 different definitions of woke. Okay, this is one thing that me and many other content creators have complained about is everybody has a different definition of what woke is. Okay, and nobody seems to have a unified definition of what woke or wokeism is. Um, uh, so there's that. Um, yes, and there's nothing more mythological than Christian compassion to people. So that's the response to that one. Okay. Um, um, yeah, I would agree. The idea that both sides use identity politics, okay, and wokeism is something that both sides will talk about, okay, but I never get a good definition of what woke is. I think the real issue with that is it's kind of a buzz term, and I don't like those. Mm. Yeah, I think, yeah, I'm having where is it? I think that's the issue is that, yeah, the chat is going to be ahead of the show. When you use StreamYard, there's like a 2-second delay before I see it. So that's kind of the way the show works. It's probably a connection issue because I mean, I'm looking at the chat and I know that several people are from around the world here. So, I mean, I think I've got a Swede and Australia and, there's going to be delays on all of that. Um, so there's that. So, but okay, here we go. Yeah, I don't know that. I guess that kind of comes close, dude. Um, I think, I think it goes back to the fact that I think a lot of people, that there's this issue of wokeism that you're focusing on all these weird little minority groups and trying to give them, make sure their rights are protected at the expense of everybody else. That's argument has been made to me. I'm not really sure if that's I'm just having having a, an issue in the fact that many of us content creators often complain about that nobody ever gives us a definition of what it is before they talk about it. And so that's kind of the issue for me. So when I look at wokeism and progressivism and atheism, they're not necessarily coherent. They're not necessarily the same, and that's the problem. So, let's see. Is anybody? Let's see. Boy, the chat's really going fast. Going faster than I can keep up. That's part of the issue. I do want to highlight this one. Thank you, Jova, again. I think atheism will be fine. There are always those who are pretentious and preachy, but as long as religious extremists don't gain power, it's fine. Yeah, I think that's definitely one of those things where I'd say that's true. Um, and it's why a lot of people are afraid of Project 2025, but that's the Heritage Foundation. And Trump is kind of, when he talks, and I know what's in the contents of it, I think what you have is a disconnect. I think that's Heritage Foundation's objectives and motivations if they got a conservative president, but I don't think it's what Trump's objective. Trump is too egotistical to not have his own objectives. Okay, he's going to have his own. Mm, so, uh, uh, could they be considered woke? Um, I don't know. Okay, this is one of my problems, Shaka, because when I deal with my fellow atheists, it's one of the problems that I have. Um, because they'll sit there and say atheism is only about the God claim, but then they'll turn around and if I don't line up with certain social political ideals, then I'm not a real atheist either. Okay, it's kind of like the Christian game of what is the real Christianity, what's the real brand of Christianity comes in, and then they do that with atheism. Like everybody's like, what's the real atheism? What's this? Um, I don't know. I've had this issue with my fellow atheists uh, for quite some time now because it's we we sit there and say it's only about one thing. Now, don't get me wrong. If you take God and religion out of things, it has massive consequences to how you view reality. But I don't think that it's the end all of things. And my issue with it now, it seems to be more than um, I don't know. It just it we make it more than what it is. Okay, atheists even do this. Okay, they'll hear the charge of atheist worldview and they'll balk at that, but then they add a bunch of things to atheism. Okay, like you got to be a progressive, you got to be a liberal, and you know, and if you're not those things, I mean, I remember a few years ago, I think it was Stephen from Rationality Rules. The Austin Atheist Association basically shamed him and pushed him away because of some of his social views, okay, on things didn't line up with theirs. I'm like, he's still an atheist. Okay, he's still, it's like I don't know. So I don't know. It's not a I think the real problem I'm going to have this time is I think a lot of religious people think that this is a religious mandate with this vote, and they're going to try to come at atheism as a way of trying to get rid of it. They're going to continue to demonize it, do the things that they do. Um, yeah, it's kind of one of those things where I we have an internal schisms about stuff, and we don't really need them right now. Okay, there used to be far more openness to variance of belief within the atheist camp, and that's just not true anymore. Because it's become very diverse. Okay, there are conservative atheists, libertarian atheists, Green Party atheists. There's progressive atheists. It's all over the map. And so, getting a joint, we want this to be a secular nation kind of thing becomes problematic. Whether it's woke or not, I don't know. Okay, because once again, I don't have a good definition of woke. Oversensitive things is more of what they're talking about. You have an example? Okay. I mean, I don't know. I look at this stuff and I just don't have any of that stuff where I think it's oversensitivity. I think see the problem with woke is I think I could use there's a similar thing that happens on all sides with all the ideologies. There's something that you feel is true or going over the top or whatever, and I don't know. I've never gotten a good definition on it. I'll just say that. Um, Oh, I don't know if this was true. I'm sorry, Mr. Kramer. I think everybody voted their wallet. Okay, and I'll get to that probably more in a later video, but I don't think that people got necessarily tired of the Democrat tricks, quote unquote. I think they were just voting their wallet like they always do. Um, yes, they're all more Catholic than the Pope, which is a violation. I mean, sorry, no, I don't think that's a great decision. Does the Supreme Court now represent all America? No, it only represents a small portion of America, ideologically speaking, and that's not a good thing. And, eh. Yes, but will they continue to demonize me and be prejudicial against me? It's happened. Okay, so that's the question. Yes, but you'll force your religious morality on me through law, and I don't like that. Oh, okay. You fail to understand what politics and law does. Okay. I want to get to some atheists here. Part to do. Okay, atheist. I can't subscribe to the woke ideology. Becoming an atheist for me had a significant part to do with not having my thoughts determined by some external authority. Okay, I think that's probably most of us that are atheists. That might be actually a kind of an idea that kind of gets us past the woke thing. I don't know that we're forcing that on you. We're just still saying that people should be accepted. Nobody's forcing you to be a homosexual. Is anybody forcing you to be trans or homosexual? No. No. Nobody ever did that either. What's your point? um, but yeah, I want to go back to this one. Yeah, I don't know. What is woke ideology? I still don't know what it is. I think that's why you put it in quotes, because I don't think you know what it is either. I think it's hard to pin down. It's slippery. Okay, but I don't know. The issue I've always had is, for years it's been, all you atheists are godless communists. That started in the 50s. I still get that. Okay, and neither one of the, you know, I'm about as far from being a communist as you can get, and I don't have morals and things like that. I mean, is that going to be continued to be allowed? Um, I would love to see, um, you know, a quarter of his peers says otherwise. Okay. All right. All right. Mr. Christian, I kind of know where you're going with all your comments, and thanks for playing. But, I think you're trying to dominate the chat. Okay. And I'm trying to get my atheist brothers and sisters to talk more than you. So, I think I'm going to drop you into timeout for about 30 minutes. So, um, sorry about that, but I'm trying to get some feedback on. Yeah, you might be right, Michael. I think that may be the issue. Okay, my issue is when conservatives talk about woke, it's always a negative term, and it's that negative feeling of stuff. Um, and so that's kind of the issue that they kind of get across. It's more of a feeling attack. Whenever it says countries become too woke, I'm like, okay, what do you mean by woke? Okay, and that's the issue. And I think it's been something that it's been bothering me for a while with this discussion, because I've heard, like conservative atheists use the term woke in a very similar way. Um, there's a target to it, because Bren's pointing that out, that there is a target in chat, that there is a target to it. But it's like, you know, it has a target, but what it is, it's kind of one of those subconscious back of the mind things, which politicians are famous for and ideologues are famous for. They give you kind of this general, you know, idea of what's going on, right? And you know, they don't necessarily have a notion of what it actually is. Okay, and I think conservatives do that very well. I appreciate the humor of this one, Michael Bell, more than you know. Yeah, but is that woke, Tom? I don't think sticking up for equality and tolerance is a woke idea at all. I think it's just a human idea. I don't think that's woke. See, that's why I reject that definition of woke, because to me, we already have a definition of that's decent human being. Okay, any side, any person. And so when a conservative or a liberal uses the term woke in a negative connotation, I'm wondering what they're talking about. I don't think it's about equality and tolerance. It's about something else that they find distasteful. They don't like, for instance, let's use trans as an issue. They don't like the thought of somebody transitioning. And so it gives them an icky feeling. So they call it woke. Okay. But sticking up for equality and tolerance, I would consider to be just basically human, what we should be striving for as a human. I don't think that's woke at all. I think that's, I mean, I could literally say that the Constitution in some ways tries to do that, you know. Yeah, see, this is why I don't use it politically either. Shaka and me are on the same page there, because it's like it's hard for me to use it politically because I don't know what the hell it means. So I don't know. To determine how I should feel, you must love God. That bothers me. There is shaming for noncompliance. Both are religious. Yes, there is. Okay. But I don't know if that's an attack on woke. I think it's more of an attack on, you know, there's this thing that people give me all the time as an atheist, that you really instinctively know there's a God. I mean, that's the Christian trope right from Romans 18, 1:18 through 20, of everybody really knows there's a God. Okay. And everybody really knows there's this, and everybody really knows there's that. And it's like, no, I don't. Okay. No, I don't. And it's like, if you challenge that, somehow you're a bad guy. And that's been my issue. I don't know. I don't think we can, because I think everybody is like using an emotional feeling as a definition. Okay. This ickiness about a certain issue that a person feels, they get the ick about it. And so then they call it woke as a blanket term. And that's why it means something different to every person who says it. Okay. It's kind of like, there's a bunch of terms that it really depends on what your emotional context is. And I think this is what it is. Yeah, I think that was the original one, of just being aware of social issues. But then somewhere along the line, it also got to be taking a stand on social issues, certain ones. And then people took deference to that and said, nope, not going to do that, and backed off. So, yeah, I think tolerance and equality are definitely more left leaning issues to people. But then right leaning people would argue that in some cases, good intentions can lead to great deals of harm when it comes to equality, and it's why I have kind of, I don't like the dialogue the way it goes most of the time. You might be right. I appreciate the humor of that comment, Tom. I do. So I do. Mm, uh, I would say that that's actually a pretty good definition of conservative. But what if an institution is actually good? What if it does actually do some good? I don't know. Being patriotic isn't necessarily evil. For instance, conservatives tend to be more patriotic because they think it's a good institution, and sometimes they're right. Okay, sometimes they're right. If we get down to the base of what conservative and liberal mean, conservative is more about maintaining traditions. Well, if the traditions are good traditions, then it's not a bad thing. Okay. That's why I've said that conservatism and religion don't necessarily go together. I think religion goes with whatever it wants to. I've used the analogy that it's kind of like a prostitute. It sleeps with whoever will give it advantage. And I don't think there's any inherent connection between conservatives, liberals, or religiosity. So, um, yep, this is true. Rejection of privilege, that's regarded as woke. Um, I don't know if you're going to ever get rid of privileges, though. All people are equal, but some are more equal than others. It's probably always going to be with us as a human race. I'm not sure how you fix that. Uh, Being enlightened, to believe you know and fight for the truth. Um, yeah, I think you might be onto something there. I think sometimes people feel that they have the right cause and they go after it with a lot of exuberance. And um, I don't know. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm getting at, Goodman. I think it's mostly a buzzword. This has been my argument, Mal, since the very beginning. If people did not have this objective morality written on their hearts, we would all behave the same. Okay, but we don't. Um, so there's that. And it's when an atheist points this out, because that is because where atheism does come in is the idea of argument from a religious authority, because religious authority always has this belief in God behind it, right? And so we sit there and say, I don't buy that it comes from authority. Okay. And so they make the argument, oh, the law is written on your hearts by God. And it's like, well, I don't believe there's a God, so I don't buy that. Um, um, so I think that's kind of what it is. Yeah, this is kind of what I had to get. This is a deconversion issue, Fred. You're hitting on it. Okay, one of the biggest things I had to realize when I became an atheist was, oh, nobody's coming to rescue me. Um, they want somebody to take care of them. And I think they look at Trump as kind of somebody that's going to take care of them. And I don't know. I took responsibility for my personal economics a long time ago. That whatever the economic situation is, it is what it is, and I got to figure out a way to navigate it. Okay, so yeah, I agree. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if they'd ever say that either. Uh, yeah. See, this is I think it's a bastardized word. Okay, and it's like, yeah, wisdom. That's actually good. What is wisdom? Okay. Boy, it's really an emotional feeling sometimes of what the wise course of action is. So I think that's kind of very interesting. I think that's a very good observation. Um, yes, there is. Being proud of your country is one thing. Thinking that your country should dominate all other countries is another. Okay. I think that's the issue. Okay. But a conservative might still advocate for patriotism, but not go after extreme nationalism. They might realize that their country has problems, and the patriotic duty of the citizen of that country is to solve those problems. Okay, there's ways of looking at it, Martin, that I think are very interesting. because I think that's what happens. Too many people go from patriotism to this extreme nationalism, and those are two very different things. Uh, it is a very big difference. Okay, so there is that. And decent behavior. I have different baffling things about Trump. One of the comments I got uh, earlier was not on the live stream, but was you might want to look at how is it that conservative Christians can vote for somebody like Trump when he's not exactly the moral Christian example. And the reason they can do that is Christianity in America has changed. In the 80s and 90s, Trump would never have been a candidate. He wouldn't have even been close. He has divorce in his background. He's been this, that, and the other thing. They would not have accepted him. The religious right would not have accepted Trump 20, 30 years ago. They would not have. Okay. Because he is rude and because he has all this baggage in his background, they would not have accepted him. Okay. That tells me that Christianity has changed, that they're willing to compromise their morals and ethics in order to get what they want. Okay, in order to get there. That's my problem with Christian nationalism is they are willing to compromise their ethics and respect for other human beings in order to get their objectives. And that's my largest problem. And that's what scares me for atheism to an extent. It's not Trump that scares me so much as what are Christian nationalists going to push Trump to try to do. I think that's far more interesting of a question to me. So I don't know. I think we'll see. Let's see. Most of you are talking about it being, a term of certain things. Yeah, okay, I can see that. I mean, I get it. Don't get me wrong. I do the same thing with the government. I'm a libertarian, so people ask me, "Are you going to?" They go after liberty. Well, you're going to get your Social Security check when you get older. Yeah, because I paid into it. I want my money back. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's like it's that kind of thing. It's not so much I'm necessarily patriotic about all the institutions in America, but I do like the ideas of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I do like the idea of people being free to do what they want to do. Okay, that's definitely there. The problem is both political parties can be very controlling at times, and it's you gotta manners and decent behavior is I think. Yeah, this is the problem with manners and decent behavior. Mm. That's a good question, and it goes back to the Christian question of why Christians support this guy. I don't know, because I'm fairly certain that probably I mean, it's not just the women he's had as wives. He's a rich man and he was in his younger days apparently very busy, so to speak. So how many abortions took place then? I think that's why he isn't he's not for a national abortion ban. I think they're going to be barking up the wrong tree if they head that way. So, I would agree with you in this sense. I think America's a lot better than it gets credit for sometimes. We're very good at pointing out our problems, but that's a human nature thing. Humans notice things that are wrong before they notice things that are right. I try to remind people there's an opposite side to every statistic. Well, a quarter of this thing is the problem. Yes, and three-quarters of it is not. Okay. Yeah. So, hey, Earl, glad you're here. Yes, he was. And the funny part about it was that I think that's where the Christian moral compromise started was Reagan because he was divorced, but he was saying everything that the Christian right wanted to hear. Okay. And so they got behind him. and then he started actually doing things that actually supported their position. So he got a really good second term because he did what he said he was going to do, which is a problem politicians don't always do these days. Um, so I don't always understand it either, Bren, but it's there. Aw, Earl, thank you. Um, uh, I want a definition of fascism there because I don't think Trump's a fascist. I don't think he is. A fascist wants the government to control everything, and I don't think that's what he wants. He certainly doesn't want it to control him. So, yeah, that's kind of where I think about him. Coyote. So you and Aaron Rodgers, huh? Yeah, agreed. A lot of people just I think where I just saw it. I saw it. There it is. There it is. There it is. He isn't intellectually consistent enough to be a fascist. I agree. I absolutely agree. Um, uh, yeah, this is more like a narcissist, not fascist. It's going to be more about Trump than fascism. Sorry. Yeah, statistics are misleading, and I'm going to argue probably in a couple days. I'm going to go back and forth with Stephen from Rationality Rules with his. He came out with a video like Wednesday, and I want to use it as a springboard to talk about a lot of issues because I think he gets a lot of things right, but I want to add to him. I think it'll be an interesting piece. Um, uh, yeah, I guess it depends on your definition. Give me a definition of fascist. Okay, because fascism is usually about also has an element of control by the military. Okay, and I'm not really sure that that's going to work out for him. I guess for me, I kind of trust in the system that the founders put in place in a sense that it's going to block him the way it is. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting because he didn't get everything he wanted last time. Okay. And I don't think he's going to get everything he wants this time either. So, um, yeah, the thing about it, to me, there's always a military aspect to fascism. It can be there, but you can also control people other means. I'm not saying you can't, but it seems to me that every time I see the word fascist, I always connect fascism with an idea of military control, that there's a supreme leader and they control the military, and that's how they maintain control over the populace. And so I don't know, maybe you can call him an autocrat would be a better term, and going for autocracy, where he's trying. I mean, what comes to mind is Mr. House in Fallout New Vegas. I think that's kind of the way I view Trump. That's kind of what he's trying to do. He doesn't give two shits what your morality is really in deep in his heart, as long as he gets what he wants. Okay, I think that's a little bit better analogy. I think. I mean, it's easy to call somebody a fascist, but I love your wife. Okay, very good. Uh, yeah, it'll be an interesting thing, won't it? I mean, it wouldn't be. I don't know if it's the first time we've actually elected somebody that convicted of a crime. I'd have to go through my things like that. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we got to figure out we got to stop missing it, and because they're misused and overused, they've lost any punch or meaning, and so you have to come up with new words to actually describe what you're talking about. Well, you just point out how weird politics is. I was trying to get this across to a coworker. You know, I know avid liberal, there's liberal celebrities out there that also are survivalists that, have their survival camp packed with guns and supplies because they feel the end of the world is coming. And then you got other people that are fairly conservative, but very supportive of LGBTQ. So it's like, I don't know that people fit the two boxes, the red and blue box anymore. So, yeah, you could argue that way too. That Trump is just a puppet. I don't know. I think he's too narcissistic to be a puppet. I guess. Yeah, I mean, you can be culturally fascist. True, true. That's very true. Um, uh, I'm not sure about the law. I know. Okay, the military is a complicated thing in the United States. Number one, every military person swears an oath to the Constitution of the United States primarily first. And then part of that oath is to obey the people in leadership over them, which at the top of it is the president of the United States. However, the oath isn't to the president, it's to the Constitution, and the authority of the president is based on the Constitution. So a soldier or sailor or airman in the United States has a moral consciousness about who they're serving, or at least they should. Okay. It's not as simple as saying they just have to do what they're told. Okay, a if one of those people, if a military personnel member thinks that what they have been ordered to violates the Constitution or is immoral, they can refuse to do the order. But that requires a thinking, moral person to engage that topic. Okay, it's one of the big differences in the oath that we have here in the United States that military personnel do is they raise their right hand. I know I've taken that oath as a civilian. Okay, when I took political office, I've said that oath twice, and my primary duty is the Constitution of the United States. In the case of, I was an official on a school board, so I also had to swear to uphold the Michigan Constitution as well. And those take precedent over any orders from any authority figure. And I think that's the issue with the military. It's one of those things. Yes, and that's what I'm getting at. He wants that. He's not going to get it. Okay, because most generals are going to look at him and say, "No, I don't swear an oath to you. I swear an oath to the Constitution of the United States." And that's where the problem is going to be. Okay, it's that's the issue. That's going to be the issue for a while. So there's issue. Um, there is a debate about this. I don't know that Trump actually believes in God. I don't think he does. Okay. Yeah, you know what? What is it? Favorite line that like it said. I can't remember the movie off the top of my hand, but he lifts the glass and says, "Here's to treason." Okay, because had the founding fathers failed, they would have all been hanged for treason against the UK. So I think that's a very interesting thing there. Um, yeah, you might be accurate there. The neo Nazis like the Republicans, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure that Republicans would all be neo Nazis. I think some of them are good people that are just they're caught up in their own needs. So, um, I don't know. I'd want statistics on that one. So I want that one. It's not as civilians as when you take civilian office, Trump's going to do in January. He's going to raise his hand and put his hand on the Bible. He gives an oath to the Constitution of the United States. So we when you take public office, that's what you do. You have to swear oath at all levels, even local. Okay, so your whole oath is about loyalty to whatever the Constitution says. Now, of course, because constitutions can be interpretive, there's a lot of interpretive license in that, but you're supposed to uphold it, okay, as the supreme law of the land, so to speak. When I took my oath the first time, I was very conscious of what I was doing. Normal citizens don't necessarily have to take that oath, but if you take public office, you do. He might be our first atheist president, and people are right. Yeah, he's very non-religious. Okay, and that's what really bothers me about Christian support of them. They liken it to the Jews supporting Cyrus in the Bible or whatever it is. You know, I've heard that argument made by a preacher that even though Cyrus didn't believe in the Jewish God, he was still supportive of the Jews, so they still supported him. And that's kind of the way they're dealing with Trump. You know, he's on our side, kind of thing. So, yeah, I don't think he believes either. I don't think he believes in Christianity. I think he's made that abundantly clear. Yeah, Earl, I could make that claim too. Okay. My experience in the ministry, I can tell you how to be a really good salesman. Okay. I think there was an expression that I had. A friend of mine who went into politics, who had been a Christian for a long time, made this statement. He said, I learned everything I needed to know in politics by being in the church. Okay. I said, I learned how to public speak. I learned how to deal with people. I learned how to manipulate situations. So I got what I wanted. So yeah, you can learn a lot of things in church like that. Yeah, well, David actually did believe in God. So I think that's, you know, I think when I look at Trump, it's very much, how can I say this? It's very much like he uses it as a political tool, but I don't think he believes anything that they say. All right, well, that's enough of the future of atheism, Trump, and everything else. I'm going to have a video later this week about dealing with that. I do want to deal with some of the things I've had to think about given the election as the future of the channel. I don't think I'm going to do a bloody thing different other than to try to put out more content. I want to talk more about that in my video where I'm going back and forth with Stephen from Rationality Rules. Not that we actually had a conversation, but I want to take what he says and bump off of that. But for as far as the future of this channel, I'm going to continue to try to normalize atheism and deconversion. Okay. I wanted to make that very clear. I've watched a lot of, I subscribed to several atheist things on Facebook, and I had one or two of them said they're leaving the country and they're done. And I'm like, I'm not really sure that that's the proper response. I think the proper response is to continue to do what we do, because in an ideological sense, we're gaining ground. Are we the biggest dogs in the United States? No. Atheism is still a minority opinion. Okay. But I think we can still go forward and do what we do. And so I'm not at all convinced that giving up at this point is the idea. So there's that. Yes, I'm going to try to do more. One of the things I do have to do is I'm looking at being much more quicker and concise with my videos. My biggest issue, and I'm going to talk about this more in the other video too, but it's time. Okay, it's time. All right. I would love to have daily content rejecting everything that people come out with every day on the other side against atheism. There's something there's something I could react to every single day. I just don't have time to do that kind of work. Okay, and that's the issue for a lot of us content creators. Stephen brings this up in his video, but he's like, I would love to do that, but I can't. I don't have the financial resources like the conservatives YouTubers do. So it's like it's that. But doing a mix of videos, doing stuff that's shorter, taking stuff from these live streams and getting them out where I just have to put an intro and outro on it, just makes it simple, because then I just have to do some cut and pasting and post it. But trying to find ways to do things quicker and easier and doing them well is still an issue for me. Um, I did not see it, but I will try to look it up and watch it. But I don't think the answer is to run away. I don't think the answer is to move to Canada. I don't think the answer is to give up and do all this, because based on the tide of belief, Christianity is still shrinking and atheism is growing in the United States. If the trend continues, it's going to do that. Um, yeah, I like deep dives too, but I also know that if I'm going to extend my reach, I got to reach out to the people that don't. Okay. Um, yeah, yeah. I don't know. I really do have a little bit of faith in the system that even if he controls both the Congress and the court, that he's still going to have difficulties, because some of the people on the court, they're not completely Trump. So um, I don't. Yeah, I don't think we're the problem. I agree. We're not the problem. I think sometimes our attitude is the problem. Okay. I got to remember, and I'm trying to check this with my own attitude. I'm never going to convince somebody to be an atheist. I can enter stuff into their discussion, into their mind that they can think about themselves. And, just learning how, yes, my opposition can frustrate me, but I have to still treat them like human beings. Taking the high road is not always easy, but it is the most effective long term. Um, yeah, I don't believe. Okay, I don't. But I also um, explaining to them why I don't believe and why it isn't a belief is really, really difficult sometimes. And they get very, very difficult. I ban pre-supper apologists from that for this very reason, because it's like you're not even engaged in a dialogue with me. Um, and so we have to figure out how to communicate better what it is we are. We also, I think, have to get rid of the misinformation. And that's what a large part of my channel is somebody comes out with misinformation, I counter it. And I think that's what I'm going to continue to do, both on the atheism front and the deconversion front. Because a lot of people will say, oh, deconverted people are they're angry about something that happened in the church, and that's why they're leaving the faith. And it's like, no, that's not what it is. Okay. Atheists just hate God. No, that's not what it is. And just, it does feel repetitive to me that I keep saying the same thing over and over again, but also that forces me to be creative and try to figure out um, different ways of doing it to reach different people. I think the real challenge for me since becoming an atheist is how poorly I'm treated as a human being sometimes. The whole threatening me with hell thing happens often. And it's like, I don't believe in hell. I don't believe in your God that throws people in hell. And the fact that your God throws people in hell, you might want to think about that. Um, yeah, I know they don't live in our reality. They don't care about policy and all that. But what is it that does motivate them? And can we discuss that with them? Um, that's my issue. I think that's something we need to address, because I believe in being the better human. Okay. In the conversation. Um, and I wouldn't say they're morally bankrupt. They have a morality, and sometimes it actually is good. And I think it's finding the common threads that we can have discussion about. I don't think we're going to win this by saying they're completely opposite of us. We're all human beings, and there's some commonalities there. I think I'm going to take a cue from George Carlin, because he does a routine where he says, okay, enough of all this stuff that divides us. Let's look at the stuff that unites us. Um, and so I think that's the issue. The issue for me is finding things that become doorways and windows and avenues to opening up dialogue with somebody on the opposite side so they can see their point of view. I think that's something that we need to do. Um, thank you, Jova. Appreciate you. Awesome. Thanks for the donation. Appreciate it. Um, I'm going to disagree with you. If we stop engaging, they're gonna say, see, they just don't want to talk to us. Okay. I've learned that, I guess maybe this is me being a pastor for all those years, I'd having to deal with people that I disagreed with all the time, face to face. Um, I still had to find ways to connect with them on a human level. And when you connect on a human level, you can usually be more persuasive. Um, I think, in honesty, I think that's what Trump did with a lot of people. He connected on a human level when it came to their personal economy. Whether any of that's true or not, emotionally, I think that's what he did. Um, and that's why so that's kind of it. Yeah. But they don't see him that way. See, that's what you're not getting. They don't see them that way. Okay. They don't see him that way. And there's an emotional reason why they don't see him that way. And it's not necessarily that they're evil. Okay. They're not evil people. I think most people are good. Okay. Including Christians that voted for Trump. I think the problem is they're deluded, and I think they're deceived. And I think also that they're, you know, they have a viewpoint of reality that's different than mine, and showing them how that's wrong takes a while and takes education, and it takes connection. You're not going to change their minds by sitting back and going, oh, well, I just want to talk to them. It's hard. I know. Don't get me wrong. I get that this is difficult. I run an atheist channel, for crying out loud. Okay. I've got some comments. In fact, this would be a good segue to some of these comments, maybe talking about them, but, I'm going to add this one to the stage. I hope everybody can see this. It's about as big as I could get it. But like this guy, he's trying to draw conclusions about naturalistic evolution that he says Darwin knew. And I don't know that Darwin knew it, but I think more along our lines. This is from my video earlier in the week. It's like stuff like this. It's not misogyny to require a man or a woman to meet God's standards for themselves to serve as clergy. And it's like, but you're basically saying that women, simply because they're women, can't serve in the clergy still. Okay, so how is that not? How is that not misogynistic? Okay, and I think getting them to explain how that's not misogyny and it's based on a God standard. And it's like, but if I don't believe in God as an atheist and I don't believe in your book, then how is that not misogyny to me? Okay. And how would you make it non-misogynist to somebody like me? Okay. It's trying to, I get that it feels like it's pointless, but a lot of it has become so antagonistic. It's hard to get a human connection, but there's a different motivation for different people, and learning to see the fact that even when people act wrongly, they're acting out of fear, they're acting out of like whatever. Okay. My point is this: finding a way to connect and then have a dialogue is the issue. Don't preach, discuss. Okay. And and when I get somebody, in order to get somebody to have that discussion, I have to reach out to their humanity, and everybody has a human side. Everybody has. I mean, I'm sorry. I think a lot of people voted for Trump because of their compassion for their families. Now, you can say that's misplaced, but they're like, man, it's costing me more money to go to work than it did 4 years ago. It's costing me more money for food for my family than 4 years ago. My rent's gone up. Everything's gone up in the last 4 years. And it was so much better under Trump. And Trump comes along and said, yeah, it's more better. They're not voting. They're voting out of fear for the future. Okay. And you can discuss the inflation rate until you're blue in the face, and it's not going to make any bit of difference because they're in that mode. And they're like at the bottom level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and you're trying to get them up here at the top, and they're not there. It's finding the right level of where people are at. And that's hard. I'm not saying this isn't hard. I'm not saying it's not difficult, but I don't know that people vote on facts. Okay. I think you can do it. I think they do have a baseline there, Earl. You got to find it. Okay. Everybody's human. Okay. And everybody has a human side to them. It's very hard to diagnose somebody as a complete moral imbecile. Okay. Almost everybody has some sense of empathy or morality that you can tap into. You just got to find it. And, it's hard to say it, but the first place you got to look, this is an old leadership trope, but it's true. You got to look in the mirror. Okay. Am I reaching out right first? Now, if you are, then yeah, they might be the problem. But I've had good conversations with theists on this channel. It's just I have to really work at not being a dick. Okay, back to them. Okay, I really do. And I know people don't vote on facts, first of all. You need to put that out of your mind completely. Passion rules reason in politics. You got to figure out what their passions are and then show them why they're wrong. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. There's a fear of that too. I think there's a lot of people that want people to tell them what to do, and getting them past the authority complex of morality is a hard one. It's a difficult thing to do, guys. Um, yeah, yeah, exactly. When I was talking about that comment, that's exactly what I was getting at. Then your God's a misogynist. Um, I, yeah, I want to point this out. Ed Raby, the rabid atheist, is an example of somebody who had conversations with atheists who didn't treat him like a piece of shit, who didn't reject him, didn't get frustrated with him because he didn't see things, but they kept feeding him information. And then I get it. Okay. And that's the issue. Okay. But I am a living example of somebody who dialogued with people over the years, and more, did any of them convince me? No, I convinced myself. But I was a very fundamentalist preacher at one point in my life. And, 20 years ago, I would have voted for Trump for the same reasons everybody else did. Okay. But now people reached out to me, I reached out to them, and they treated me like a human being. Okay. And I know that's hard because they're ignorant sometimes. You're sitting there, this is stupid. They don't base their thing on the facts. They hate me. Um, Earl points out a good point that they do hate the left, but, I hate to say this, the left hates the right. Okay. Maybe we need to get the hate out of the equation. Okay. Don't tell me that left people don't hate the right. I've heard it. Okay. So it happens both ways. And once you acknowledge that it's happening both ways and it is the problem, then I think a solution becomes better. Okay. But I'm not giving up. Okay. I'm not quitting. Okay. I'm going to continue to do what I do. I have never, okay, Earl, I love you. I have never heard any person on the right say they want to kill you. Never. I'd want a quote. I'd want a quote on that. Okay. I have never heard somebody say they want to kill me because I was an atheist yet. Now, I'm not saying that couldn't happen, but I don't see that they want to kill people either. Okay. I mean, I guess I'd want to quote on that, Earl. I think that's dangerous talk, because then it allows you to completely isolate yourself from any opposing view. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't think that that's true. I don't think these people want you dead. Okay. They want you to see things their way, just like you want to see them to see things your way. And that's fine. Perfectly legit. But I don't think they don't want to kill you. They don't want to kill me. Okay. I've never had see, the thing with religious people, they want God to kill me. Okay. They don't want to do it. They want to wait until I'm standing before the throne of judgment and let God throw me into hell. Okay. Because then that keeps their hands clean. I have never heard a right-leaning person say they want to kill me. Okay. If they have, it's really isolated and probably a rarity. I guess I would want a quote on that. I want some facts on that, where, that's their objective, is to kill us all. Okay. To put us all in concentration camps and turn on the spigot. Okay, I guess that's that. Um, I've heard those things, but that's not death. Okay, and I also know that all of those people, like Cheney, got threatened by Trump, and a lot of Republicans said Trump, that's wrong to do. Okay, and I think that gets lost too. Um, I think you also, when people say that they want people to get sexually assaulted, it's like I think a lot of people on that side say, "Hey, wait a minute, bro, you need to stop saying that." I know that happens. Okay. I just believe that like 95% of human beings are decent human beings that just get caught up in whatever they believe or don't believe. And you have to sort that out. People don't act out of rationality. They act out of their emotions. And getting them to act rationally is a far more longer process. It's easier to act in emotions. It's easier to punch people in the nose than it is to talk to them. Okay, it is. Um, yeah, but they're talking about they do want to ban trans healthcare. They're not talking about banning people transitioning. Okay, go ahead, do what you do. But they are talking about banning it. As far as killing at the border, I think that would go badly because if you see some, the moment a border guard kills a 12-year-old girl just for walking across the Rio Grande, you know, is the moment that's going to make the news, and people are going to say question that policy. Okay, and it'll be people on the Republican side that question that policy. Okay, um, so yes, Trump does threaten people. Is he going to be able to act on that? No, he hasn't been able to do it. I mean, I remember the first campaign. Is Hillary locked up yet? Okay. Mm, yeah, they don't. Who's they? And are we dealing with a minority or majority? Because I know, like my family, a lot of my family are Republicans, and they absolutely have compassion for immigrants. So, who's they? See, that's a gleaming generality, Earl. I need to know who they is, and are they a majority or are they a minority? Okay, who's they? Okay, it's easy in politics to say they say this. Who's they? Okay. Yeah, I mean, he can advocate for it, but can he do it? I'm not picking on you, Earl. I'm just saying that if you're going to make a statement about a whole group of people, you better have some evidence. I demand the same thing out of theists when they talk about atheists. I'm being consistent here. You know, the issue is who's they, and are they accepted by that group of people, or are they considered an outlier? Okay, love y'all. All right. Um, I think that's the worry of a lot of people on the left, Michael, is that it won't stay that way. But I don't know. Maybe this is maybe it points to mistaken logical reasoning, where um, people said they had that logical fallacy about mentioning Germany, back in the 40s, um, and that's a logical fallacy. I'm like, if a historical example fits, wear it. You know. um, yeah. See you later, Fred. Earl, I love you. Okay. I'm just saying that if somebody's going to make a blanket statement about a group of people, they better have facts. And I do that with when religious people say atheists have no morality. I say, who says that? Okay. Uh, Yeah. Politics is about making friends and allies. Okay, it really is. I don't look at all that. My main issue is I think a lot of people. Yeah, yeah, we're still online. I think a lot of people like to generalize about both sides. Okay, they generalize about we all sit here and yell about how the right generalizes the left side of the aisle about this, they're all woke, they're all whatever. And then you'll see the left turn around and say, oh, they're all racist, they're all fascists, they're all this. And it's like, no, I don't think that works. I think you can overgeneralize. Um, I want proof of that. Okay, if somebody's going to say all these Republicans want people killed at the border, I'm beg to differ. I don't think that's the case. Okay, I think that's an overgeneralization. Because I know many Republicans and they're very good people. Okay, they're being voting out of fear about the economy more than anything else. Um, they don't like what's going on, and as much as that can frustrate somebody who says, "Well, the economy isn't that bad," and that might be true to a certain extent, to them it's not good because of their own personal situation. So I think that's kind of where we're at. But great discussion tonight, guys. But I'm going to have to run. But just let you know that I'm going to keep keeping on. I've got a couple of videos I think that might be good discussion points based on this one coming up this week. So, and kind of continue to, yeah, we're trying to I'm trying to get us past our own tribalism with this stuff, and I'm going to try to reach out because I know how I was reached and move from that, and that's kind of where I'm going to keep my tone. Where I'm trying to reach out to theists and trying to reach out to people on the other side of the aisle and have a good conversation. But thanks for everybody for stopping by. I appreciate all of you. You guys are great. Thanks for all the donations. Thanks from Joe uh, to Joe Shade and all the rest of them. Thank you very much. Appreciate all of you. Thanks. Thank you very much. And as always, continue to live your best life. You only get one to go around and then it's over. And so you want to take all your time, money, and opportunities and spend them on yourself, the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do. I speak from experience. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you next time.